Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Y'all, I am so excited to share my conversation with Laura Belgray with you on the podcast. Laura Belgray, she's the founder of Talking Shrimp, the co-creator of The Copy Cure, and the author of Tough Titties on living your best life when you're the effing worst. Yeah, she's hilarious. You're going to love her authenticity. She's honest. She's the real deal. And no wonder she has built $1 million plus business being her. So we really get into that in this conversation, and everything that that she shares with us is so adaptable and ready for you to implement as a mission-driven professional. So oftentimes I say to many of my clients and students that the best way to become a better storyteller, a better messaging expert is not by reading a book called How to Tell Better Stories. In fact, it's just reading. It's just reading the stories and going, ooh, what was it that resonated? How did this person get me to laugh 2 lines in? How did this person get me in the room with them where I'm totally enamored and like in it in just a few sentences? And Laura has done that for so long. She's unapologetic about me emailing often. We dig into that as well. And one of the pieces that I really prioritize here on the podcast is inviting people onto the podcast who are not in it, who are not in our world. Because Laura is not in the nonprofit world. She's the perfect person to say, hey, what makes you give? Hey, what motivates you to read this story from a nonprofit you care about? What motivates you to click the donate button? We get into all of that. And you may be surprised by what she says. And it really, I got off the interview with her and stay and listen till the end because she really had some juicy moments at the end to share with us. And I really thought about it of it as I'm working with many of you, it really got me going, okay, how do we inject a little bit of that Laura Belgray into the nonprofit world? And if you feel like what you're writing is bland, if you feel like it's kind of sterile or safe, you need to inject a little bit of the sass into your stories, into your copy. It doesn't mean that you have to go the version she went. That's her brand, her business, her version. But there is a way to have a more approachable voice, a more approachable way to relate to supporters, donors, and attract more raving fans. All right, I'm going to keep reading her bio because I got off track. So through her work with hundreds of clients, including online biggies like Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield, she's seen firsthand that putting you into your copy and all through your business is pure magic for getting people to love you up, share ideas, and happily click your buy button. And in this case, the donate button, right? The get involved button. In addition to online types, Laura's list of clients and credits include NBC, Bravo, HBO, TBS, Fandango, and many, many more. So if you watch TV, don't skip the commercials. You've probably seen her words on air. Tough Titties, her first book published by Hachette, is available now, and it's a really great book. It's a great audiobook as well. Again, it's a memoir on her life and the way that she tells stories. Again, they just put you in the room. You're laughing along. They're real. They're relatable. They totally made me have New York City nostalgia. And it's a treat to have her on the podcast and share her expertise, her excellence with us. So enjoy. Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast, Laura Belgray. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Christina, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And this has been the most fun conversation starter ever. Highly recommend grabbing a hard copy of your book, Tough Titties, because leave it around town, bring it to a coffee shop. Or if you're like me, bring it on vacation. And this is the ultimate conversation starter on an airplane. So we're going to be digging into this today.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I have to tell you, that is my dream, was always my dream when I wrote it, that people would be like strangers, would be reading it on planes and starting conversations just right off the cover. So awesome.
Well, one of the things that I loved about the book was your New York stories. So it had me like nodding along. I went to college in New York, and I, like you, had a very winding road to this entrepreneurship, this version of what I'm doing now. So it felt very resonant. I had the bartending job. I know the feeling of money waving in your face and you getting to like
having that stress of who to pick first, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, that's what I thought it was going to be, because I had been to bars and seen that the bartenders had all the power and everybody was just vying for their attention, and they had their pick of the litter. They could decide, yes, you're the lucky one. I'm going to give a drink to. Unfortunately, I had the crappy shifts that had like 2 people. Yeah. So there was nobody waving money in my face to get my attention.
My first bartending stint was very, very busy in that version of it. And I was like, this is what it's like to have a panic attack. Noted. Okay, this is what it's like, because the stress of like just everybody wanting something all at once. But so we're going to dig into your book launch. One of the things that I've noticed, when did the book originally come out?
June 13th, 2023. So,
you have that is incredible. You have kept energy up. You have kept this conversation. It feels fresh and new to me. And one of the things that I noticed through like the lead up in the launch and during the launch was how you kept your energy up. You didn't treat it as like, my book's coming out, now it's out, I've talked about it, now I'm done. It really felt like you brought your community in, you partnered with people. So I want to dig into that. How did you keep your energy up through what is naturally, I would imagine, like the highs and lows of any sort of campaign, any sort of launch?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I did hear there were people I knew, like friends of mine, whose books came out around the same time. And they would say like, okay, I launched it. It's out there. And now it is up to the universe to get it into the hands of the right people. And I'm like, well, the universe is not a book publicist. So I wouldn't count on it getting into the hands of the right people without you doing anything. And so like how I kept my energy up was just, I guess, momentum creates more momentum. So, or as they say, an object in motion stays in motion. So as long as I kept going, and I was waking up every day, I guess because I was obsessed, I was able to keep going. I am not able to keep up the energy for anything that I'm not obsessed with and obsessed about. If I'm not obsessed, then I'm lazy and tired. So as long as I was obsessed with the book, and still am to some extent, but especially for like a good 6 months there, I was waking up every day thinking, what can I do for the book? Which sounds exhausting, and was and is, but I'm glad that I was doing something for my book every day. And that's pretty much what it took, was thinking, what one thing can I do for the book today? And that sounds more organized than I was. It was just like,
I love that question.
Got to do something. Got to do something. And so I would create a post or write an email or, pitch a podcast, but usually it was about creating a post or writing an email, talking about it to somebody.
That's so smart though. What one thing can I do? We could put that in for anything, whether it's promoting a book, whether it's promoting a campaign, whether it's promoting anything. But I do think there's this point of like, I feel like people come to me and they're like, I've reached out to my inner circle. Like, you know what I mean? I've reached out to the people who are going to share it or have me on the podcast or share it on their Instagram or whatever. So now what? So now, like, again, it's up to the universe. And I feel like you really handled partnerships well. And you really were unapologetic about like, who do I know? Who do I not know? Who do I need to get in front of? Because this book is amazing and people need to know about it. Like,
Thank you.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, there's always unless you're a certain kind of person who gives 0 Fs, there's always the fear of bugging people, of like being a pest, and you just have to get over it. And, the answer isn't, well, no one thinks of you that way, or you're not putting anyone out. You're not imposing. You probably are. I mean, I get tons of requests from people like, can you do this for me? Can you read my book? Can I send you my book? Can you recommend me to this podcast? And sometimes it's pain and I don't feel like it. But if they ask nicely enough, if we have a relationship, if there's a reason for me to help them out, besides just being a good person, because that doesn't go far enough when you get enough requests. then I will. And it's okay that they were a pain in the ass. It's worth it on their end. It's worth it on your end if you are the one being a pain in the ass. It's like, okay, if somebody's rolling their eyes and sighing and saying like, ugh, got to do this for this person. Because when you think about it, like if you have something that people need or want or would be delighted by, and I think my book qualifies, like from your perspective, the nice things that you're saying, you were very glad that you found out about it and think that people deserve to find out about it. You just have to keep that in mind. And it's like you're doing people a disservice and yourself and the work that you've, the whatever work it is that you've put so much into, so much energy into, you're doing it all a disservice if you don't bug everyone you can possibly think of who might be of help.
Okay, so what you said, I think is true and shows up in your business, and because you have courses and digital products and a mastermind as well. But it's almost like you're saying, and you email a lot, which is one of my most favorite things that you do. It's something that I have absolutely stair-stepped myself, my business in doing. You've made peace with annoying people, or you've made peace with people not being like, I don't really want to do this, but all right, here's an email intro with this person, right? Of like, yeah, maybe every connection point isn't going to be flowery and warm and everybody's going to feel good about it. And we go and we do it anyway, because you have this bigger goal over here. Talk about that of like, yeah, not everybody's going to be like, I'm so glad you emailed me today, Christina. I would be delighted to stop everything, get this person on the phone and connect you with them.
I think you just put it perfectly. Make peace with annoying people. That is maybe the key to life and success.
To millions.
To millions and to creative success, because no work of art, no, movie, TV show you love, no anything that you're so glad exists was created in the spirit of, I don't want to annoy anyone. That has never been the mantra of anyone with any creative success. So you just have to drop it. Make peace with annoying people.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, there's our big and tweetable takeaway from today. Oh my gosh. All right. So during the book promotion process, and you've put together since book launch hero, right? Which I was like, yay, I'm glad she's put this together. So this is like a framework where anyone who is writing a book and wants to learn the promotion process that you followed, this is in there. And some of the key points that I think that you did well was just getting in front of lots of different people, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through interviews, whether it's through media, whether it's through partnerships. What did that look like for you as far as you? I'm guessing you had like a publicity team work with you, but as far as some of the organic, like what felt like this is something that I need to do. This is a tactic I need to do. This is somewhere I need to get in front of.
Yeah. So I did hire PR for 2 months. And maybe should have done it earlier, but it's expensive. So I'm kind of glad I stuck to 2 months, and they helped me get on podcasts that I couldn't get on myself. Podcasts or podcasts that were not in my realm, online entrepreneur space. And I know lots of people in there and was able to get on podcasts in that scene myself. But the ones that are like Dear Media types, like Bravo related podcasts, because I'm a big Bravo head, and Real Housewives, and comedy podcasts and stuff like that, or influencers podcasts, and to reach those young people, younger readers. Those were essential for like the wider spread, but most of the rest of it I did myself. So some of that was one essential strategy that I used that I wouldn't have known about had a friend or two not told me about it, was having a street team. So it was my friend Selena Sue who helped me draft a street team plan. And that is like a group of people that you recruit usually from your own email list. I guess some people might use social media to do it, but I can't imagine not having an email list and actually being able to do this. So I sent out a series of emails saying like, will you be on my team? And recruiting, I capped it at 300 people. Now I know, like, having gone through it, I would like to have aimed for 1,000. I don't know that I would have gotten that many. I might have gotten 300, might have been the cap anyway, but I stopped trying at that number. And their main purpose is to give you reviews, leave you a review ahead of time on Goodreads. They get your ARC advanced reader copy in exchange for this. Like, that's their reward. The main reward is getting an ARC. And so they read it in advance, leave a review on Goodreads in advance of publication. And then on the day of publication or soon thereafter, their main job is to leave a review, a 5-star review on Amazon. And Amazon reviews are sadly hugely important. I wish they weren't. It's really hard to get people to leave them, especially if you are a nonfiction author. Fiction authors, for some reason, readers of fiction leave reviews all the time. That they feel like it's their duty, I guess. There's like a strange code among fiction readers, like you go and leave a review. But nonfiction, it's so hard to get. Like most authors I know, even best-selling ones, have under 100. So I was really glad that I recruited this team, and they were wonderful. It does turn out that only about 25% do their full job without, and then more come along. That's why I wish that I had 1,000 instead of 300. But I got a lot more reviews than I would have had I not had that wonderful, loyal street team, which were nicknamed the Titty Committee. And
perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
And they were my cheerleaders, and they also helped promote it and shout it from the rooftops, and they were great.
This is a good reminder of like letting people help you. So this wasn't people that work for you and your company. These are your subscribers. These are your raving fans. These are the people who want to see you succeed. And it's interesting because I teach a concept called social street team, which is sort of the fundraising equivalent of this. So so my audience will basically get what you're talking about. And you just said it, which is if 100 say yes, about 25 of them will actually show up and do the thing. And about 20 of them are going to rock at it. And that's okay. Yep. Like we account for that, and that's okay. I love that you did that. And what's interesting is I don't think I realized you did that. And I bet that's why it felt like hyped up as just somebody on Instagram where I'm probably seeing other people talk about the book. Like I felt the hype, I felt the energy, I felt the momentum, but I didn't really realize that what was happening behind the scenes. So that's cool. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. Right? And there's a ripple effect of that, of course. So, say 25 people go out there like it's their job, because it kind of is, and promote your book and hold it up and take pictures of it, post pictures of it, post their reviews, like story them, etc. That creates hundreds more who see that, like you repost it, you restory it. People see like, oh, her book's getting a lot of attention. It must be really great. Or I want to be part of this. I want in on this. And social proof, it's very powerful. So other people join in. So it creates way more than the actual numbers who you've recruited.
Yes. And I love that you branded it. They had a name. What a good community building effort. That's so good. So I want to shift gears and talk a bit about your storytelling. And years ago when I used to identify, by the way, as somebody who was a terrible writer. I was like, that's not for me. I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I'm businessy. I'm not a good writer. And once my first layer was just dropping that story to be like, oh, right. Maybe I'm an okay writer. But one of the things in just being in your world, getting some of your products and just being on your list and then ultimately reading the book is that I've gleaned is really excellent writers. I love that you didn't write a how to write book. Like, I love it. I love that it was a memoir. I love that one sentence in, I'm in the room with you. I'm there. Like, I get it. And I think that oftentimes in the entrepreneurial world, we think we got to read here's a nonprofit one, how to tell great nonprofit stories. And it's like, actually, no, a better way is to learn from some of your favorite writers. A better way is to read from some of our favorites. So I want to talk about your style of writing. I wrote down the word Flawesome. I think that's what you call it. But, we might call it like you're vulnerable, but it's your flavor of vulnerable. So talk to me about your style of writing, that Flawesome, that voice and that edge, and why it's so, so important, and how, if people have that wall up, how they can start to let that wall down, let people in.
Yeah. So Flawesome is my substitute word for vulnerable, because I think there's so much fake vulnerability, which I call vulnerability or vulnerable shit out there. And it's usually just, it's usually just bragging in the form of vulnerability, like, oh, I'm feeling so less than because I didn't feel worthy of the 7-figure launch I just had. Or like, and I tell you, the day I went to the bank in my, to deposit my first $1 million check, I was wearing Crocs. I'm so embarrassed. That is not vulnerable. So I prefer to call it Flawesome. And that is about flaunting your flaws and being open about them, sharing the feelings that you probably shouldn't, if you are trying to appear successful. And especially in the business that I'm in, like the online business world, where you are teaching people where you're trying to model success, and people want, and kind of the name of the game is for people to want to be you. So it is risky to be so open about your flaws and about your insecurities. And I don't know, I just wrote a post and then turned it into an email the other day about feeling so tired of the internet. I think the post was, I think I'm reaching peak tired of the internet. And then I wrote a long caption about it. I'm just like tired of all these things, all the BS and all the, success tips and AI generated stories about how I just made, 67,000 while sipping Prosecco on the beach, while my kids frolicked in the waves. It's all, I can smell the chat GPT from here. So it was kind of a rant, and I knew it was showing a crack in the armor, because I think what you're supposed to do is say, I love what I do so much. It feels like play every day. And, and when I'm so in flow and aligned that none of it bothers me.
So what I'm hearing is we are supposed to project ourselves as successful. It's aspirational for the people who are in our world, right? And that success has to look professional. It's kind of like the lie we've been taught. I definitely think my clients and listeners feel the same way. I don't want to seem scatterbrained, overwhelmed, stressed out because this is them. My audience is going to be like, holy crap, I'm not going to donate to them, or, they're a mess. But the reality is, that's the reality. And those are the juicy stories I want to read. Is we want to read that you're tired of the internet. We want to read that we're tired. I'm tired of ChatGPT saying unleash, unlock, transform. I'm tired of it.
Elevate.
Make a difference, elevate. I'm like, I get you. Like, that's okay. Like, we get to say those things and still lead an organization, lead a company, lead a brand. And in fact, that's the piece that builds trust. That's the piece that builds connection. But I think it's a lost on a lot of people.
Yes. And for that very reason, they're afraid that people will say like, well, this person isn't successful. I'm not going to take them seriously. They don't have their shit together. And it is the opposite, that people are drawn to you because they trust you, because you are giving them the relief that they are not alone, and they still perceive you as successful if you are. And that shows them that it's possible to succeed, and even if you are a big hot mess.
Have you signed up for the Profitable Partnerships 3-day fundraising challenge? It's happening this month on April 24th, 25th, and 26th. We're going to meet every day. And in this free 3-day sprint, you're going to do the inner work and the outer work to meet big profit and big impact. If you've been saying to yourself, I wish we could land more donors, more partners, and more funding, this is for you. Each day will build upon the previous day. We're going to do action audits, mindful outreach, and I will show you the roadmap to commitment and lasting impact for long-term growth. Make sure you go to splendidcourses.com/challenge to save your spot. So how do you balance the Flawesome with like TMI? Like, how do you balance that? You know?
I mean, I am a bit of a TMI queen, but, and my book has a level of TMI that I don't share in my emails and my business. Like in my daily email, semi-daily, thrice weekly emails, I don't share the kinds of stuff that I share in the book. That's a level deeper, and it goes into things that make some people blush, and especially when it comes to, sex life in my 20s and that kind of stuff. So I would say that, like, that's stuff that I don't feel comfortable putting in my business communications. I keep my emails very personal and personable, but still don't open up that much of the kimono. And I'm not saying that you can't. I know people who are very successful email marketers who share way more than I want to read from them, more than I want to know. But other people eat it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You get to decide. Exactly.
Right. You get to decide. What are you comfortable sharing? What would you want to know about from somebody you follow and whose emails you read and somebody you might do business with? And what don't you want to know? And I say apply those same rules to your own writing.
So one of the things that showed up in your book and definitely shows up just in your emails is you are decisive. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you want to sleep in the mornings, you have a decisiveness that I think that has really served you in your success in your career. Talk to me about how your decisiveness has helped your visibility and has helped grow your business. And decisiveness is like saying yes and saying no, right? But it seems like you don't ruminate in decisions for very long, yeah?
I think that's an illusion. I am, because I would never think of myself as decisive. You're right, that I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And I am certain about those things. However, I hate making decisions.
Okay, fair.
I'm terrible about it. I put off decisions. I'm so avoidant because, first of all, every time I do something that's outside my comfort zone, that is scary to me, that requires packing and picking out outfits, like a speaking gig, I am so regretful that I said yes all the way up until I am there and on stage. I mean, I go through the same thing every time. Like, why did I say yes to this? Why am I traveling without my husband? I don't like traveling without him. I only want to go on pleasure trips. I don't have anything new to teach these people. It's not going to be their jam, or it's not the right fit for this audience. And I wore this outfit last time. I can't wear it again. All the raging insecurities and
the brain like the rest of us, then. This is great. Perfect.
It is. And the whole time knowing I will be glad when it's done, and I will be glad I said yes. So that's the only thing that gets me to say yes and to stick with the yes. And at the same time, somebody might say, like, still waiting to hear from you on this, like, weeks later, because I so put off giving that RSVP. So, I am okay at picking what I want for dinner off a menu. That's not a big problem. But anything that involves my ego and performance and how I'm perceived, that is where I have a really tough time making decisions.
Okay, so I wrote down, how do you talk to your inner critic? And I think maybe you started to answer it, which is that wasn't quite a critic, but it was a little bit of like that inner voice of, why the heck did I sign up for this in the first place? And I don't even have anything to wear. And will they even want to hear what I have to say? And this isn't even the right audience. And that piece was how you talk to it was, I'll be glad I did it when it's over. I'll be like, is that part of how you get through that chatter, through that mental chatter? Or what does that process look like for you?
Yes. And reminding myself, like, I haven't failed yet. I haven't had a disaster yet. If we're talking about speaking gigs, I have not had anything happen yet where they're like, this sucked. Sorry, we want our money back. Or you're like, we cannot pass along a good word to anybody about you. So I know that I will never do as badly as I think I'm going to do or badly at all. But so that's how I get through that. When it comes to the inner critic and say my writing, or when I was writing the book, that was really hard to get over. Like I had just so many insecurities, and I know that I'm a good writer, but this was a whole different animal from the kind of stuff that I usually write, writing emails. I mean, my friend Susie, I would complain to her relentlessly and about how hard it was to write these chapters and give them an arc to meaning and make them complete. And she'd say, you write emails every day so easily. Can't this just be that with a spine? I'm like, I wish, but it's not. And actually, like, emails do not have to be perfect. And if you write one that doesn't get any engagement that you can see, that doesn't get any replies or sales, say, Livy, write another one the next day or 2 days later, or whatever, or the next week. There's always a do-over. With the book, you don't get a do-over. So I had a tough time with my inner critic on that front, and finally just had to sit down and do the damn thing, and found that doing it was easier than not doing it.
That's good. Doing it was easier than not doing it. There you go. That's a way to talk to your inner critic. Like, let's go. Let's just put this out into the world. Yeah.
Right.
So we've talked a bit about email and storytelling. You've mentioned you email your list. Your kind of set point, your baseline is 3 times a week. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Love it. Is that your recommendation? Do you wish that organizations and nonprofits, most entrepreneurs would email that much, or what's your recommendation?
Only if they're writing really entertaining emails. I don't necessarily want to hear from a nonprofit that often. Because unless they're writing something really entertaining, and it's not, every one of them is not a plea for money, a straight plea for a donation. If it's like, what I want is to be intrigued, entertained, maybe informed, but less informed and more entertained, or have something to talk about. Yeah. So if this is a nonprofit that's sharing interesting tidbits, something personal, fun stories, or gossip even, then I'm going to open those emails. If everyone is like earnest and here's why what we're doing is so important, Laura, I don't need that one.
That was like the tone of being called into the principal's office. Laura, this is serious.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, that's also the tone of the ones that you get from, from the PACs, from all the political emails.
Most of them.
Tucker Carlson is lying about me, Laura. Oh. That's the subject line. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting ready to be bombarded by those this year for sure.
Yep.
So moving into some of the things that you'd like to see in inboxes, and this could be for nonprofits or just general entrepreneurs, it can be trends, but I don't love that word. More of like, what do you want to see more of? What do you wish? What are you seeing that you're like, I look forward to reading this. I look forward to seeing this. Even if it's social content, I'm curious, like, what's intriguing you lately? What do you want to see more of?
I mean, really, I just want to see more entertaining stuff, more gossip, more like if it is from a nonprofit, which I don't follow a lot of them, But if it is, then still I want it to be, I want to see more entertaining stuff. Or I just an example, there's one person in my mastermind shrimp club. Her name is Dana DePrima, and she has an organization called For Farmers. And what I've been working with her on a lot is that, like, people don't necessarily care about farmers, and you can't keep talking about why farmers are so important and expect us to care. If, however, you're talking about like why these cookies will taste better with local butter, and then maybe I'm interested, even though I don't bake. Or like, you know, these ingredients, like your skin's going to be so much better if you, like, if it's about fresh local produce or something like that, how it affects me. Yeah. So, I mean, I, as a 54-year-old woman, I'm just interested in right now in skin procedures and skin treatments that are non-surgical. That's like that, and Real Housewives. And anything from HBO, and like when is White Lotus coming back? But yeah, it's a lot of Bravo gossip.
So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing some through lines of like, don't make it always about the organization. Don't make it always about them. Figuring out that value proposition for a potential donor or subscriber, and not to be so serious, which is something I talk to them a lot about. Many organizations are dealing with serious issues. They may be dealing with terminal diseases. I work with one that deals with ALS, and they find a way. There is some humor in that, and they find a way. They find a way, and just not letting it all be so dry and sterile and serious, and not using that very programmy speak, and instead helping to just entertain a little bit more. I also think, you know, letting people have the driver's seat who are staffed there. So it's not always the CEO or ED or somebody like that who's writing the emails. Or the ominous brand. I really hate that when it just comes from the organization. It's not even, doesn't even feel like it's written by a person, an individual.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned ALS, because I've been thinking a lot about MS, because right now, as we're recording, Christina Applegate has been on the scene a lot. She and Jamie Lynn Siegler just started this podcast, Messy, that I am obsessed with. And thank goodness, lucky me, like I don't have MS. No one in my family has MS. But their honesty, their conversation, their candor and their humor is just feels so universal and fresh and relevant to anyone who's craving that. And it's a relief to hear them be so honest. And Christina Applegate was just on Dax Shepard's podcast.
I'm halfway through that episode right now.
My God, it's so good. I laughed out loud so many times on the street that I scared people, and because of the things she was saying, and just the way, and she is in no way does she think having MS is fun or funny. She's very honest about being really heartbroken about this condition that she has, just so depressed about it. And anytime someone tries to reframe it as like, but is it in a gift too? Like maybe it's what'll make you. She's like, I'm not there yet. Sorry. I am not there yet. And when people talk about, shouldn't you, like, have you accepted it yet? She's like, no, fuck you. I haven't. And that is funny. And all the humor that she gives that is what makes me want to listen. So if she were like, just in a commercial, like, won't you please, like Sally Struthers, won't you, with the Sarah McLachlan playing in the background, won't you please just donate the price of a coffee to help someone with MS? Like, no thanks. But because she's so funny and so real and raw, and sometimes like humor and truth are the same thing. That's why I'm interested, and I can't get enough.
I love that. I love that so much. And she'll be a great ambassador for an organization. No doubt. Not only is she bringing eyeballs and visibility to the disease, she'll end up, no doubt, people will see a surge in donations for sure. Right. There is a she's an influencer now to me. Her handle is Limp Brewskit, like Limp Bizkit, but Limp Brewskit. So her name is Brooke Eby. She has ALS. She's maybe 30, and she's hilarious. She's finding the humor in the fact that she is a terminal disease and her lifespan is cut very, very short. Some of her content can be a little polarizing, and it's funny. And she has brought so much awareness to this cause. I'm like, we need more Brooks. She's like dating with a terminal disease. Here we go. And she'll be putting on her makeup, talking about dating with a terminal disease. And, as things change, as she goes to clinics and does her breathing test, we're all along for the ride. And it's like, that's the kind of content I'm interested in. I've learned more about the disease in 6 months of following her than I have in 6 years, of being on a drip campaign or something like that. So,
yeah. And there's so many, I have heard the question from so many people in fields like that, or like I work with cancer patients or cancer survivors or people grieving, and like, but there's so much humor to be mined from that, even if it's just like, there's nothing funny about having it. But think of all the, if you made a list of terrible gifts you got when you said you had cancer, or awful things that you wish people wouldn't say to you. There's so much mishigas around it, and so much trying and efforting on the part of awkward people, people who have no idea what to say or do, and so many bad suggestions. And there's just a lot of humor to be mined from very serious things.
That's bringing us back to where we began with it. But that's that willingness to be Flawesome, the willingness to let people in, not be so sterile, not be so serious. So I think those were some really, really good examples. So we ask every guest one question before we wrap up. And one of the questions we ask is, what is one thought you like to think on purpose? So this can be an affirmation, it can be a mantra, it could just be a saying, it could be something you have on a Post-it note, but would you share one of your go-tos with us?
When I am inclined to change something that I'm creating, that I'm writing, so that nobody will be unhappy with it, and so that nobody will be irritated or mad at me, I always have to remember that nothing is for everyone. So no, as I was starting to list before, no movie, no TV show, no pop song, no brand of water or soda or candy, for anything that you are glad exists, there's somebody who says, nah, it's not for me. And so you have to remember that. And that's I could not be less interested in Game of Thrones. I couldn't get into Game of Thrones. I have a chip missing. I just didn't like it. And everybody else was obsessed with it. And I knew the problem was with me. It doesn't mean that Game of Thrones, that the writers' room should have gotten back together and retooled the show to make it more to my liking. It means that it's not for everyone. And neither is anything that you are going to create. And neither are you as a person. So stop trying to be for everyone, because if you're for everyone, then you're for no one.
Oh, so good. Thank you for that one. That was a good one. So where can everyone follow you, hang out with you, get Book Launch Hero, all the things?
Okay, so my digital home is talkingshrimp.com, and you will find Book Launch Hero there. You will also find Tough Titties there. If you go to toughtittiesbook.com, it will lead you right there to my book page, where there's some great bonuses. There are writing bonuses, etc. And then Book Launch Hero is there. It's for the taking. It's an instant download, so you'll find it on my courses page. And or you can go to talkingshrimp.com/book-launch-hero, and you'll find it right there. But it is available right now.
Amazing. Thank you for today. This was so fun.
Thank you, Christina. Awesome.
Hey, High Achiever. I know your sights are set on ambitious, world-changing goals. In the Purpose and Profit Club group coaching program, you can get the support, motivation, and strategy to accelerate your impact. I like to say it's where the inner work meets big impact and big funding. Go to splendidcourses.com/waitlist, and you will be first to be notified when we open up doors, and you'll get special bonuses when you join our waitlist. See you inside. Think you've reached out to everyone in your network? Are you out of ideas to get noticed and get funded? I hear you. That's why I'm giving you a chance to steal my prospect list. Yes, you can generate leads for your nonprofit or impact-driven business. Grab my mini training and list delivered to your inbox instantly. Go to splendidcourses.com/prospect.